So hello, everybody. I'm George Williams from Northeast Kansas Library System, and with me today, as always, is
Christopher Brannon from the Coeur d'Alene Public Library and the Cooperative Information Network.
And so I'm going to show everybody today, this is not something that Christopher or I wrote, but it's something that I asked for and it's something that I use a lot. So I'm going to show you what it is. Before we get to that, though, right now on the video, you can see this is the koha-US homepage. And if you go over to the link here that says Learn from Us and scroll down, this is where you can find all the videos we've done in the past with the links to all the stuff that we were talking about in more detail underneath them. So that's it, koha-US, and on the Learn from Us page towards the bottom. And of course,
there's a quick link up at the top to jump right to those videos too. The koha-US videos.
koha-US videos will pop you right down there. So let's get to this. And I'm in the koha-US demo site, and what I'm going to show you today. So this is something that happened up until koha 1705 in the patron messages. When you create these messages, if you added HTML to the input you're putting in here, it would render in the message as HTML. With 1705, there were some changes made, and all of a sudden, all of the, for the hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of patrons that I had left HTML in those messages, all of that HTML broke. It stopped working. And we end up with something like this, where this message has a break tag, and there's an embedded link. So there's some HTML in there. Yeah, that now all of a sudden it doesn't look like HTML. It makes it impossible to read. Not impossible. It's just a lot more difficult to read. So when this happened, it was the day after we upgraded to 1705, and I contacted Bywater. And Michael Cabus, who is no longer at Bywater, created a bug. And then he did something that Bywater never usually does for me. He said, there's a jQuery workaround. Usually I'm the one. Yeah, that's usually what I say, somebody says there's a bug, and I say, oh, I know how to fix that with jQuery. So Michael came up with this jQuery workaround. So I'm going to go to the Internet User JS system preference. And the first part is this: he created a function. So this is just a piece of jQuery that creates a function that you can use, you can call up later on and use on the page. So it's really useful. And what it does is it just says, anytime we have some text in a specific selector that you want to show as HTML, you just add this to HTML function to that. So that's the first part. That's what the function does. It says, take this and make it HTML. Take this text and convert it.
So that's what to do.
Yes, and now the second part is where to do it. And what this does is, if we look back at this message here, and I'm going to open up the inspector, and I'm going to go up here, and this whole thing is in the, it's in a span, and the span has a class called circ-HLT. I don't know who came up with that as a class, but it works. And
probably
then
circulation highlight.
Circulation highlight, that's probably true. And it's in a div with an ID of messages. So if we go back and look at the selector, it says anytime we have a div with the ID of messages, and we find anything in there that has a class of circ-HLT, each time we see that, we're going to take this and we're going to convert it to HTML. And that's calling the function that's up here. So if we save this and reload this page, I'll get rid of that, then all of that HTML that's rendering as text is now going to go back to being to being HTML. So
Beautiful.
the breaks all show up. And this is based on a report that I use where if we have duplicate patrons, I put the card numbers in a report, and then I get back this nice little piece of HTML that I can plug into the messages on both accounts. And then that way, when somebody comes across this account, they can click on that link and it takes them to the other account that appears to be the same patron.
So not only can you go from just inline text to something that looks nice, you can make it functional.
Yeah, you can embed links, you can do whatever you can do in HTML, you can do in that message now.
That's great.
So one of the reasons I like this as a function is because, this was what happened in Koha 1705. So in Koha 1811,
They did it again.
They did it again. Yeah, exactly. So here's the saved reports table. And all of this stuff here that's in the notes field, for years and years and years, as far as I know, all the way up until 1811, you could add HTML to these notes. And so naturally, I did. And I did it when I was at Valnet. I did it when I started working at Nichols. I filled, all of those notes. I dumped a ton of HTML into because I try to note I try to do good notes for my reports because I've encountered a ton of reports that the notes are terrible. So I actually have a little template that I can plug in there, and it asks, basically who, what, when, where, why, and how. We'll accept the how. What does this report do? What's it for? How's it ordered? Does it have links that go out to anything? I try to put it all in there because when I got here to Nichols, I inherited a whole bunch of reports that didn't have good notes. And of course, what happened with 1811 is the same thing. All of the HTML stopped appearing as HTML. Okay, so in order to get in order to add that function to the output of the report, to the results page of the report, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to wrap the little paragraph where those notes exist with this ID. And there's probably another way to do that, but that's what I do because I already have that wrapped around there for something else I'm working on, something else that I've got my system doing. And then when I put this there, that will take those, once I save it, if I go back to the reports out, the table, all of that that was in line becomes HTML. And when I actually run a report, the notes will show up here as HTML instead of just that block of unformatted text.
Very nice. I had noticed too, you talk about where, they took out the HTML in the messages, the circ messages, and in the reports. Another place that I noticed in the past few years where that had disappeared was public and private notes for, or at least the public notes for the catalog. So if you put public notes and you used HTML in those on the patron side and the staff side, those broke. And we had used those notes many times to, like, for example, when we added the digital version of a DVD to our Voodoo account, which is in our Rokus that we check out, we linked those movies, the actual physical movies, to our Roku so that people could see, oh, it's also available in the Roku. And if you click on it, it'll take you to the Roku. So that was a huge thing for us. And when that broke, that just kind of chapped my hide.
And this would fix that.
Yeah. So this is great. This is a great tool. And who knows wherever else they took HTML. This is going to be a fantastic function for anybody to put that back.
I know a couple of people that are already using it because I know that some other libraries had HTML in those report notes. And Michael shared that with a lot of people. So Bywater customers are at least aware of it. I'm not sure if it's on the wiki or not, but I'll make sure it's there when this recording comes out, before this recording comes out.
George, before we wrap this up for this week, can you take us back to that bug? Because I think it's important that we, even though we've got this function workaround, that is great in itself. I would like to stress the importance of chiming in on bugs, because this is something that has affected many different areas, and who knows how many people it has affected and bugged, literally. So it looks like 19852, if you're interested in this being something repaired in Koha and not just worked around with jQuery. And anytime that we add jQuery, it's just more and more code for us to swim through when we're working on jQuery. And when we do upgrades, we have to make sure all of that works. If we could have this something permanently fixed, that's always a bonus over jQuery. So we encourage you to go to this bug, to chime in, to add yourself to the CC list, so that they know that this is something that needs to be fixed.
So with the messages, I never heard any reason why that shouldn't be fixed. My understanding with the report notes is that was done on purpose to prevent code from being put into those, because I think it had something to do with Mana, where you could put HTML into the notes, and then once those notes get sent to the Mana server and downloaded by somebody else, it was a way that people could introduce bad code into somebody else's system by hiding it in the HTML and the report notes. So I was told that will never be changed for the report notes, but for the for the messages, as far as I know, it's just because I'm the only one that ever complained about it.
They just need to have Mana strip the HTML out.
Yeah, the filtering can be done in Mana.
Yeah, why not? Why take away something great?
Yeah.
Something else that's great. Why not have two things that are great?
Totally. Now, maybe that's something we can talk about in the future when we talk about Mana. So
we can have that discussion in this bug too. So whatever. It helps when people collaborate and talk about these things. And,
yeah.
Because the Mana thing, I never knew that until you just brought it up. So thank you for sharing that.
All right. Well, have a good weekend. We'll see you in a couple of Thursdays.
Bye.
All right. Now I got to find the stop recording.